Hi, my name is Ernesto Alvarez, and I am a software architect here at Mayan Technologies. Today, I'm going to show you how to debug kinetic forms, which is a useful tool when trying to locate issues within the custom layers. Let's get started. The first step is to launch the Kinetic application. In this case, I'm going to be using ABC Code Maintenance Screen. Once we have the screen open, we need to activate the browser client debugging. And we do this by pressing F12 or function F12. By doing this, the developer tools panel is going to slide, which we're going to be using to debug the application. If we click F12 again, it's going to hide the application panel. Once we enable the debug console, we have a first shortcut to review, which is Ctrl-Alt-H. This will show us the available keyboard shortcuts that we can use through the debug console. This will show us how to load up the component model, how to log all the rules either in a tree view or as a table, or even see the data views into the console. This is a useful shortcut because it will give you the list, or it can help you remember what shortcuts are available for you to use. Now that we have our developer tools and console panel open, we can start debugging. But first, we need to activate the debugger, and we do this by pressing Ctrl, Alt, and number 8. If we do this, we're going to see a status update in the console window, which is going to say updating debug logging status true. This means that we can now start tracking the activity that runs on this form. Just to give you an example, if I click on the refresh, I can see all the events that are happening behind the scenes. We can see actions, we can see the expression being evaluated, we can see some events happening, and we can even see what are the methods that are being called. In a moment, we will see the details on the network tab, which will show us more information on the service methods that are being called. So just to recap, how to enable the debugger here is with the combination Ctrl, Alt, and number 8. Now, as you can see, the console can get a little bit crowded, so we might need to clear this. We have a couple of options to do this. First one is by using the icon right here, which is clear console, or we can use the combination of keys, Ctrl and the letter L. By doing that, it's going to clear our console and it's going to help us keep this a little bit cleaner so we can move on to review the rest of the shortcuts. The next shortcut I want to show you is how to see the components within the screen. This screen contains a couple of text boxes and checkboxes. So the combination Ctrl, Alt, and the letter L are going to show you the text boxes and checkboxes from within the screen. So in here, I'm going to expand one of these elements, and you'll see this is a checkbox, and we can see the epi binding, ABC code. We can see the different properties from within the model. This is useful if you want to see a specific property of components within the screen. This will give you enough details for you to start your research or review process. The next shortcuts that I want to show you are the shortcuts to see the data rules within the application. The combination to see the data rules are Ctrl, Alt, and number 1. This is going to show you the different rules that are currently applied, and this is going to be shown in a tree view. There is another view from the same data rule, but now within a table format, which is Ctrl Alt 2. So this will give you, in my opinion, a little better overview of the ID of the rules that you're trying to see. So you can see here which are the rules that are being attached to the landing page, or which are the rules attached to the trans view. This will give you a little better overview of those two items. So here you can see what are the rules and what is the current result that they have. This will be very useful and can help you troubleshoot if you have data rules that are not behaving properly. By going into this debug and showing what is the status, it can give you a better understanding of what might be wrong or what might be different. The next shortcut I want to show you are, to me, the most useful one, because it's the shortcut that's going to show you the current data view and the 30 rows that will eventually be saved to the database. So how do we see all the current data views? The combination for those is Ctrl Alt and the letter B, as in victory. By doing that, the system is going to show me the available data views, which you can see we have two sections. We have the system data views and the application data view. The system data views will display information like BPM call contacts, search results, and so on. And the application data view will display the actual data on the screen that I'm working on. In this case, you can see I already have the ABC code table here. And to me, what is useful is that it's going to show all the field, not just the field on the screen. So there might be some fields that are currently not being displayed on the screen, but you want to see the actual value. This shortcut will allow you to do that because you can see all the fields available here without having to go to a BAQ or something else to retrieve the value. So this is a very useful shortcut to see this information. The second one is how to see the 30 rows, the rows that needs to be updated. In this case, the combination is Control Alt and the number 3. By doing this, it's going to give you the data views that have 30 rows, and you can see what the information is contained in the current data view that will be stored into the database. You can see here all the information. So again, this is also a useful one to see which information is going to get stored into the database. Connected to this shortcut, I want to show you another tab from the developer tools, which is very useful as well, which is the network tab. This network tab is going to contain all the information of the events that are being called or the services that are being called while you interact with the application. In this case, I'm going to save this record, and you can already see here which events are being triggered. In this case, I am interested in the update method because I want to see which parameters are being sent or what events are being called. So by doing this, I can see some information here, even within the header or within the payload, I can see what is being sent to the system. The header, for example, will show us the service name and the service method being called. In this case, being the update method, and within the payload, we can see the parameters being sent here. So here you can see I have the full data being sent, and if I were to select the second one, I will probably see that the row mode on this one is being U because it's being updated. So again, this is a useful way to track elements being sent to the database for information. And we can see the response back from the system. So the system will return back either the record being stored or maybe there's an error. You will also see that information here. So the network tab is also a useful application when trying to track changes or we're trying to find the root cause for a bug. The network will help you track which event is failing or what information is being sent. The last item I want to show you is how to enable the debug in the Smart Client. During this video, we have only used the browser to enable the debug and to see the different shortcuts available. But what if you're using the Smart Client? Is it possible to use the debug feature there? The answer is yes. We just need to make small changes in the config file and we should be able to use the same debug shortcut that we have used in the browser, but now in the Smart Client. So the first thing or the first step that we need to do is we need to locate the icon that we're going to use it. We're going to do right click and we're going to go to properties. Once we go to properties, we will see the target field, which will have the config file that is being used. That's the config file that we need to modify. Then we need to go into open file location and we need to navigate to the folder config file. And we need to search for the file that was specified as the config file. In this case, it's kinetic education.sysconfig. By going into that, we need to open that in Notepad. And we need to make a small change in the section user settings. We need to add this line. LaunchEO browser debug value equals true. Once we add this and save it to the sysconfig file, once we open the Smart Client, it's going to open an additional window, which will be the developer tools or the console application. You will see that in a second. Once we have the application open or a Smart Client, and we open one of the screens, you can see that it's going to open a DevTools pop-up next to it, which will basically have the same node as the tabs that we see on the browser. In this case, we can see the console and the network tab as we see that. If we see here, we also can clear the information, and by using the shortcut Control Alt 8, we can see the debug enable. so that we can start using. If we go into any of the items, you can see the same event trace and you can track all the elements here. If you go to the network, you can also see all the methods or the services that were being called behind the scenes, which can help you track or troubleshoot or get a trace of the event if you need that for a BPM. This is the feature to enable the debugger if you're using the smart client instead of the browser. Thank you very much for watching. And please make sure to subscribe so you can see more of our videos on how-tos and tips and tricks on the Kinetic application.